day, beautiful people. Top of the day. Just this a bit. All right, y'all. Tiffany, hey girl, hey. Hey mom, how you doing? Anybody set up tents for tabernacles? We almost know Proverbs, y'all. All right, my little notes down here for the day. When we get started. What y'all think about I will, mom. Everybody's still asleep, so I need to hurry up before they all start waking up. Cause y'all know how they get when they wake up. Yes, it was. The moon definitely was beautiful. Hey, Amy. Hey, girl. Hey, how you been? Oh, just a quick reminder. I know y'all know because I see it all the time. Just in case, remember when we see the full moon, we know that we are at the middle of the month according to how Yahuwah tells us to reckon time. Remember, we can find that in the book of Enoch in chapters 78 through 82. But also, if you pay attention while you reading some of the stories, in the Old Testament, some of the different things where it talks about, I think even one of the instances when King Saul wanted to kill David, it tells you like what day of the month. It said they was holding the feast on the first day of the whatever month. There was a new moon, so different little things like that you will see pop out, and if you kind of put it together, you will recognize. It tells you the time if you can. You don't necessarily really have to read in between the lines, but if you know it, you will see it when you see it. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, especially because I know since I've been tracking time, I know when we're actually supposed to begin. And once I realized that I wasn't the only one, clearly I'm not the only one in the world that's been tracking it according to where Yahuwah tells us, we'll realize that if we've been following the Jewish calendar for the feast days, and they call them the Jewish feast days, they are not the Jewish people's feast days. They have some feast days or holidays that they add into it. Those are theirs. They keep them. They keep them going, celebrate whatever. You know, their traditions, ain't nothing against them. But the very specific feast days that Yahuwah tells us to keep, and I'll say Purim. They celebrate Purim or whatever. That was Esther, the celebration when they, was able to fight for themselves. Okay, I see that, but we don't really celebrate that one. But it's there. That's a reminder of what happened back in Esther's day when the people were saved. So technically, Esther was a deliverer as well, or a Messiah type figure. And you have one in each generation as you read through, But when we look at it, remember I always tell you that it doesn't matter where in the month we are. You should be able to course correct yourself at least twice during the month if you ever get off on the count of time and where you're actually at. Remember, the new moon, when the moon is starting over, it's black, then it starts going to get light and goes to full. So when it's dark, it's the new moon. You call it the new moon the day you can see it first light up. So that's day one of the new moon. And then you can actually break it down by the weeks and the different moon phases that you see. It may take you a little while to get it down, but not too much really. You just look at it and study for a couple days and just actually look and observe. Or you can use like the moon app, and it has data from ever. You can go back and just look at the phases and each individual day and what it was, because it's real time and it corrects it, so you can actually see, oh, and you will see that this is the same phase on this same day, and they actually count the moon days in the app, like according to the as she lights up and diminishes in her light. Or this is day 1, and it'll be 100 when the moon is 100% full. That'll be the 15th day of the month. So that's how we know tense is supposed to be celebrated. Begin celebrating on the 15th day of the month, the full moon, right? Just like Feast of Unleavened Bread should begin on the full moon. So you want to keep as close to the commands as possible, and that's like 100% on point. So if you're looking, at any other time in life where you don't hear from me or disconnect from me, or you're somewhere and I don't know, whatever, you can't hear me or you forget how, even if you look in the scriptures and just go back, you should be able to find it. Leviticus 23 gives all the feast days. Enoch explains it, and other places actually explain it, so you just gotta read it. It's there. But if you're celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles or tents or booths or shelters or Sukkot, those are all the different names, but it's the same feast. It should begin on the 15th day of the month, which is the full moon. When you're celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread, it should be celebrated. It should begin. It's a 7-day feast. It should begin on the 15th day of the month, which is the full moon. Trumpets begins on the first day of the 7th month, which is the new moon. It's black. Then you see that first sliver. When you see that first sliver, they blow the trumpets, call out the new moon. So that's how you can tell. So if you're looking and comparing calendars, you have to look at the moon and the phase that it's in to make sure it's lining up. That's why I say I don't follow them, because they are off on their count. Except for this year. This year has been the closest. They actually began tabernacles at sundown last night. Remember how I told you, even like this month and next month, those who worship the repeating Sabbath, Friday night to Saturday night sundown, this month and next month, September and October, will be the months that they fall closest, because with the new moon cycles, they're actually going to be celebrating it on a true Sabbath. Like September, the true Sabbath is Friday, and then when we get the next new moon, it's going to fall on a Saturday. So next month, actually, I think it's like October 18th, 19th, that week is the new moon, and it's going to fall on a Saturday. So the Sabbaths are going to switch to Saturdays. And remember, guys, the days begin in a day. Don't let people try to negate what you can see with your eyes. The truth is told in nature. They cannot change nature. They may be able to manipulate some things, rain clouds and different things, but you can tell the difference of what's natural and what's not natural. Even if you see chemtrails, they start off the plane, shoot them out. It's like this little thin trail of smoke. If it's regular condensation from a regular plane, when this plane flies by, this tail of smoke you see like a white line coming from, that's condensation. You can tell it's a regular condensation, because no sooner than it appears, it will disappear. But if you see planes and it leaves this long trail of white smoke, and then that white smoke stays there and begins to spread, it spreads across the sky, and it looks like scattered clouds. It's unnatural. It looks different from the other clouds in the sky. You can tell. It spreads out long and wide, and it begins to cover the sky like a film of something. If you've ever pay attention, you will know that those are chemical trails. There's chemicals that are purposely being put out from them planes. Like, people get paid to do that. And you know what? Those pilots, from what I understand, those pilots don't stay in those particular jobs more than 2 years. They transfer them to another place. And I have my thoughts on that. They never allow them to stay. And this coming from one of the pilots that used to do it. He shielded his face and muffled his voice a little bit. He was giving some real information. He was like, you go check into this. This is national. This has been made public. You have to go look at this. Yeah, and I know, Tiffany, I don't know. I just decided to talk about it since I was already on the road. But if you actually go out there and look, and you will see that these things are true, So But they according to him, they transfer them because, you know, if you're in a duty station for a long enough time or in a place you really get to know the people, then you guys begin to talk amongst yourselves. And then if once y'all like uncover a conspiracy that's going on with what you're doing, so they don't want people to get too buddy like that and begin talking and throw throw a rock or something, and they mess up the plans or whatever, so they got to keep shuffling them around to different places. And it's really, really interesting, y'all. So it's a lot going on that the masses really don't know, don't understand, and really are not paying attention to. So that's my little blurb this morning. So I started all that talking about the Feast of Tents, and it's celebrated beginning the 15th day of the 7th month. Remember, in the 7th month, all of the fall feast days fall within the same time. You got trumpets, atonement, and Sukkot, or tabernacles, or tents, or booths, or shelters, whichever name. We dwell in tents. And we dwell in tents to remind us that when Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt, we dwelt in tents around his presence, you know. So that's just a reminder. So during this time, you read the stories to your children. You can read it in Nehemiah. You can read a portion of it in Ezra, and also in Exodus and in Leviticus. It's there, so you can pull all the stories for tabernacles out and read over those and just go over them with your children. And children love this time because it's like camping inside and out if you're doing it at home. So, and my kids, I was in the kitchen cooking yesterday, and I realized because I got 4 small kids that got tents in the living room, so it looked like a whole little camp going on in there. And they got the teepee tents. Y'all seen the video that I posted. Anyway, I go in there yesterday. These jokers is making a war camp out of the camp. Matthew Tabernacles is supposed to be a peaceful time. No fight, no arguing, no time of mourning or nothing. Matter of fact, it specifically says that, and I want to say it's Nehemiah or Ezra, because they realized, oh my gosh, we have not celebrated this. We're supposed to have been doing this. Y'all said we're supposed to do this forever. And they were so sorrowful that they began to cry and weep, and they went into fast. And he said, no. He said, put this, thank you. He said, no, you do this fasting, this crying and mourning and weeping after this feast is over. This is a joyous occasion to remember what Yah did for us. You know, what he did for our ancestors when he brought them out of Egypt. He said, so put that away right now. Have fun. Sing praises to Yah. Enjoy yourself and talk about his goodness. So that's what we're supposed to be doing during this time. You know, so he said, but after this is over, if you want to go into doing that, you can do that, you know. So that's what it's about. If you didn't know, now you know. You go back and read it, y'all. Okay, so let me go ahead and start with these Proverbs today. It is Saturday, October the 3rd, 2020, day 266 of year 2 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. 629, day 629 of the 2-year consecutive count without the Sabbath days and the Sabbath feast days added in. So guys, today is Proverbs 25, 26, and 27. Let's go ahead and get this started. These are more Proverbs of Solomon, collected by the advisors of King Hezekiah of Judah. It is Yahuwah's privilege to conceal things and the king's privilege to discover them. No one can comprehend the height of heaven, the depth of the earth, or all that goes on in the king's mind. Remove the impurities from silver, and the sterling will be ready for the silversmith. Remove the wicked from the king's court, and his reign will be made secure by justice. Don't demand an audience with the king, or push for a place among the great. It is better to wait for an invitation to the head of the table than to be sent away in public disgrace. Just because you've seen something, don't be in a hurry to go to court. For what will you do in the end if your neighbor deals you a shameful defeat? When arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. Timely advice is lovely, like golden apples in a silver basket. Hey guys, y'all remember, I just thought about something. Man, they work hard to fool people. They sure do work hard to fool people, Trina. This scripture right here, verse 9, when arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. Okay, So y'all remember the movie with Janet Jackson? What's the movie? Why Did I Get Married? Okay, so remember the first one. And I know when we see this is like when you're arguing with your neighbor. So reading it, sometimes we may think, oh, my neighbor next door. Sometimes the neighbor could be the person sitting right next to you. Like the scene I'm about to give you. This is a perfect example of what happened and what caused the friendship with these people to be kind of, at least with this one particular person, right? Remember, what's her name? The big girl who husband the dark singer. And I forget their name. It's been so long since I've seen the movie. But anyway, they came to the friends every, I guess, year, every few years they would come to this spot, you know, the Why Did I Get Married movie, right? And so when they were sitting around at the dinner table, remember the big girl. I forget her name. The big girl and her husband, both of them. Remember, her girlfriend came to Jill Scott. Yes, Jill Scott. Thank you. Her girlfriend also came this particular time, but she didn't know that her girlfriend was messing around with her husband, right? So they were sitting there at the dinner table. And so what happened was they started talking amongst themselves. And so when Jill Scott's husband got put on the spot about something, because the other couple, the messy couple that was always fighting, the one who became a news caster for ESPN, him and his wife, they started to fight. Friend named Trina. Yeah, right. Her name was Trina. So what happened was they got to arguing at the table. Then they put their business out in the street. And so when he got put on blast, if y'all ain't seen it, y'all should probably go watch and you'll see what I'm talking about. When he got put on the spot, because they talk amongst themselves and the guys was real buddy. Since he was put on the spot, oh, you can put my marriage on blast and I'm cheating. Well, what about such and such and you? And when you went and did this, like he called a secret out to everybody. He had betrayed his male friend, everybody at that table he had betrayed because he was put on blast, right? It says, when arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. I don't think he had a good reputation in the first place, but throughout the rest of that movie, it was like it was a strained relationship between all of them when he showed up. It became awkward now when he showed up because he put everybody on blast. He revealed everybody's personal secrets, right? You know, so he never regained his good reputation. And he also lost his wife. And so I think it was in the second one, the sequel to this, when they came back together, he showed up with Trina, you know, and Jill Scott showed up with her new husband. He became like jealous for real, kind of, you know. But I think, I don't remember if Trina was in the second one. I know they mentioned, I had to watch the second one again, but I don't remember if she was actually there. But they talked about it. It was like, well, how that's going. And he pretty much was saying that she was spending up all his money and stuff, and she was just, you know, she was high maintenance and nothing like, you know, what Jill Scott was. Her issue was she was just a little bit overweight, had some self-esteem issues, but he got himself in a whole nother mess with this woman who he thought looked good on the outside, but she was disgusting and filthy on the inside. And so when he got sick and he had cancer, she was nowhere in the picture, you know, but it was his previous wife that he went back to. Now she was attached to another man, and he come back to her for help and for some sympathy. He caused problems in her new marriage because she still had a heart for him and she didn't want to see anybody die. So she was helping him with his, I think it was dialysis treatment or whatever treatment he had or whatever. But when the husband found out, it made him angry because he thought it was something else. I ain't going into too many more details, but I was just bringing that point out because I thought it was a really good example of that scripture right there about betraying somebody's trust and how you lose your reputation. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, you know, go watch it. But that's when you get to it, you'll know what I'm talking about when you get to that part if you haven't seen it. But it was a really good movie. So I'll read this verse again. When arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. Timely advice is lovely, like golden apples in a silver basket. To one who listens, valid criticism is like gold earrings or other gold jewelry. Trustworthy messengers refresh like snow in summer. They revive the spirit of their employer. A person who promises a gift but doesn't give it is like clouds and wind that bring no rain. Patience can persuade a prince, and soft speech can break bones. Do you like honey? Don't eat too much, or it will make you sick. Don't visit your neighbors too often, or you will wear out your welcome. Telling lies about others is as harmful as hitting them with an axe, wounding them with a sword, or shooting them with a sharp arrow. Putting confidence in an unreliable person in times of trouble is like chewing with a broken tooth or walking on a lame foot. Singing cheerful songs to a person with a heavy heart is like taking someone's coat in cold weather or pouring vinegar in the wound. Yeah, people don't want to hear that. They want to sit and they want to mourn and do whatever it is. They need to go through that process sometimes just to getting it out and emptying out their hearts. If your enemies are hungry, give them food to eat. If they are thirsty, give them water to drink. You will heap burning coals of shame on their heads, and Yahuwah will reward you. As surely as north winds bring rain, so a gossiping tongue causes anger. It is better to live alone in the corner of an attic than with a quarrelsome wife in a lovely home. Good news from far away is like cold water to the thirsty. If the godly give in to the wicked, it's like polluting a fountain or muddying a spring. It's not good to eat too much honey, and it's not good to seek honors for yourself. A person without self-control is like a city broken down without walls. I'm sorry, I said without walls. Hold on. A person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. I'm sorry, I added without. Another version says without. Okay, Proverbs chapter 26. Honor is no more associated with fools than snow with summer or rain with harvest. Like a fluttering sparrow or a darting swallow, an undeserved curse will not land on its intended victim. Guide a horse with a whip, a donkey with a bridle, and a fool with a rod to his back. Don't answer the foolish arguments of a fool, or you will become as foolish as they are. Be sure to answer the foolish arguments of a fool, or they will become wise in their own estimation. So pretty much what it's saying is you're not going to win an argument with a fool. If you talk, you're going to look as foolish as they are. If you don't talk, he's going to look like he's wiser than you are. So it's better just to avoid them altogether. Seriously. Trusting a fool to convey a message is like cutting off one's feet or drinking poison. A proverb in the mouth of a fool is as useless as a paralyzed leg. Honoring a fool is as foolish as trying to Honoring a fool is as foolish as tying a stone to a slingshot. That's going to hurt. A proverb in the mouth of a fool is like a thorny branch brandished by a drunk. An employer who hires a fool or bystander is like an archer who shoots at random. A dog returns to its vomit, so as a fool repeats his foolishness. There is more hope for fools than for people who think they are wise. The lazy person claims there's a lion in the road. Yes, I'm sure, but there's a lion out there. As the door swings back and forth on its hinges, so the lazy person turns over in bed. So that claiming that it's a lion out there in the streets is just making excuses of why they're not getting up being productive. No, it's a lion out there in the street. No, I'm absolutely sure of it. There's a lion out there. Like they give you excuses before they even get out there and travel. Like, bro, you got a gun? Something? You got a vehicle you can get in and drive away? Like, they make excuses of why they don't go out and be productive. As the door swings back and forth on its hinges, so the lazy person turns over in bed. Lazy people take food in their hand but don't even lift it to their mouth. That's lazy. Lazy people consider themselves smarter than 7 wise counselors. Interfering in someone else's argument is as foolish as yanking a dog's ears. Just as damaging as a madman shooting a deadly weapon is someone who lies to a friend and then says, I was only joking. Fire goes out without wood, and quarrels disappear when gossip stops. A quarrelsome person starts fights as easily as hot embers light charcoal or fire lights wood. Rumors are dainty morsels that sink deep into one's heart. Smooth words may hide in a wicked heart, just as a pretty glaze covers a clay pot. People may cover their hatred with pleasant words, but they're deceiving you. They pretend to be kind, but don't believe them. Their hearts are full of many evils. While their hatred may be concealed by trickery, their wrongdoing will be exposed in public. Don't we know that all too well? If you set a trap for others, you will get caught in it yourself. If you roll a boulder down on others, it will crush you instead. A lying tongue hates its victims, and flattering words cause ruin. All right, y'all, last chapter for today, Proverbs chapter 27. Don't brag about tomorrow, since you don't know what the day will bring. Let someone else praise you, not your own mouth. A stranger, not your own lips. A heavy stone and sand is weighty, but the resentment caused by a fool is even heavier. Anger is cruel, and wrath is like a flood, but jealousy is even more dangerous. An open rebuke is better than hidden love. Wounds from a sincere friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. A person who is full refuses honey, but even bitter food tastes sweet to the hungry. A person who strays from home is like a bird that strays from its nest. The heartfelt counsel of a friend is as sweet as perfume and incense. Never abandon a friend, either yours or your father's. When disaster strikes, you won't have to ask your brother for assistance. It is better to go to a neighbor than to a brother who lives far away. Be wise, my child, and make my heart glad. Then I will be able to answer my critics. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. Get security from someone who guarantees a stranger's debt. Get a deposit if he does it for foreigners. A loud and cheerful greeting early in the morning will be taken as a curse. A quarrelsome wife is as annoying as a constant dripping on a rainy day. And we'll notice that we hear about this wife. Remember my story from the other day about not being able to keep this under control. We hear that constantly throughout the Proverbs because that something is real. That one particular thing is real, and it could literally burn your house down if you can't keep your mouth under control. And when I say burn your house down, literally means tearing your family apart, destroying it because of this and not being able to keep that under control. And sometimes you pass that on to your children who see that and monitor monitor your behavior as it is modeled in front of them. So they learn by what they see you do. And if they see you doing this all the time, even if they don't want to, a lot of times if they don't make a conscious effort to not do those things, they're going to find themselves repeating that same cycle because they don't know any different. That's what they were taught, and that's what they do. Just like that, y'all heard this story about a woman, like for generations, their family, it's about a ham. They would cut the ham, the front part off and the end part off and put it in a pan. So as the child was growing up, the children growing up through the years watching their mothers cook, they would do the same thing. They never asked why until one generation, sometime down the line, the daughter actually asked, "Mom, why you?" They were talking about it. They thought it was something special to it or why they did it. But she said, "Girl, no, it's simply because the ham was too big to fit in the pan, so we cut it, to make it fit." This kind of summed up the story, but y'all know what I'm talking about. But just think about all those generations that did that. I ain't gonna say wasted good meat because we know pigs were not designed to be made for human consumption. So what they perceived that food, because at that time that's they was eating the pig because that's what. But anyway, we tend to do things that we see our parents do without even questioning it because it's modeled to us. And I remember mom did this, she did this, and she did. We'll put it in there, and there we go. We'll put it in there. So they just repeat things that we see our parents do, and like I said, a lot of times without even questioning why. So just think about all those years where they cut the front and the back of it off, and they threw it away I mean, something they figured it was. And I feel some kind of way when I'm about to say throwing good pieces of meat away, but it wasn't made. Now that I understand what I understand now, it wasn't food. Pigs aren't food for humans in the first place, but because it's edible and it tastes good, you can do stuff. People do it, but y'all get the gist of what I'm saying. So ask questions if you're not sure instead of at least the things that are bad. I don't think people, well, I can't even say that. Some people purposely do bad things, but you get what I'm saying. If you're doing something that's been modeled by your parents and you find yourself doing it, you're not exactly sure why, but you do it because you thought it was a good thing, and it very well could be a good thing. I would just kind of get clarification on some things. So why do we do this? I just do this because I seen you do it. And here's one thing, right? That something that I seen modeled that I do, and it's a good thing. And I mentioned before when I was giving the story about me acting crazy, starting to fight in my house, right? If my dad would come in late from work, my mom would always fix his plate, cover it and put it in the microwave. Not only did I see her do it, but after I joined the military, we moved back here, and I stayed with my aunt for a while until we found a place. She would do the same thing because clearly, it was modeled from their mom, growing up. So I would always see it without fail. Cook dinner, fix a plate. They're not home from work yet. Fix their plate, put it in the microwave. I realized why as we got more and more children, because they come done yet? They come and pulling stuff off there. When I turn my back, I know I had another piece of meat up here that I just took out of this grease, but they come sneaking in the kitchen and stuff. And if dinner is ready, you leave it nice and hot sitting on the stove, and you go upstairs for a little bit because it's not dinner time quite yet. You come back, or you let your kids eat first. They gonna eat up everything that's on that stove. Yours may not. I got a bunch of boys, and they fixing plates, and they coming back 5 minutes later for seconds. Like a couple times, I had to like remake a couple things, like macaroni and cheese, because they scarfed it down. I'm like, wait a minute here. Where's the macaroni and cheese at? Like, I done snapped off a couple times. Elijah and Jeremiah, they big boys, they eat. So when they eat it, I'm like, okay. And then I thought about it. I'm like, okay. And from that point, I started, doing it. This because there was a lot of kids in their house. Mama had 4 kids. My aunt and them, they had 4 kids and stuff. So I understood why, So daily, as I cook, and if he's not home yet and dinner is ready, I will make his plate. And I put enough up there if I know he's going to want seconds, so I take it, make the plate, cover it, and I put it in a microwave, but that was a good thing that I seen modeled from my parents, my mom and the women in my family do. So that's something that's good, that's passed down, that's modern. They don't even know, clearly you're watching them, but they don't, those are things they don't like necessarily tell you. Okay, baby, so when you're cooking dinner, you always want to make your husband plate first. They don't necessarily say that. That's just something you pick up. You may see it a little bit different in single parent homes, that they make the kids plate first before they make their own, but when it's a full family together, the person who's working and bringing in, supplying the family with the money to get the food, should have the honor of getting their plate fixed first. And even when people come over here, it don't matter who here. I don't care, you visiting from out of town, I don't give my guests a plate first before I give my husband his plate. Unless my husband is here, he's like, no, babe, go ahead and fix him a plate first, and he will do that, but I give him the honor first, no matter who, your kids, my mama, anybody. My husband gets his plate first, but if he doesn't get his plate first, it's because he said, no, go ahead. And I'm like, you sure? But I'll still, like if he go upside, I will still go ahead and make sure, put his plate together and set it aside before I start making other people's plates. No, put that down, boo. Okay, y'all, let me hear it. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. What verse is on? 15. A quarrelsome wife is as annoying as a constant dripping on a rainy day. Stopping her complaints is like trying to stop the wind or trying to hold something with greased hands. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. As workers who tend a fig tree are allowed to eat the fruit, so workers who protect their employer's interests will be rewarded. As a face is reflected in water, so the heart reflects the real person. Just as death and destruction are never satisfied, so human desire is never satisfied. Fire tests the purity of silver and gold, but a person is tested by being praised. You cannot separate fools from their foolishness, even though you grind them like grain with mortar and pestle. Know the state of your flocks and put your heart into caring for your herds, for riches don't last forever, and the crown might not be passed to the next generation. After the hay is harvested and the new crop appears, and the mountain grasses are gathered in, your sheep will provide wool for clothing, and your goats will provide the price of a field. And you will have enough goats' milk for yourself, your family, and your servant girls. Another quick thing I want to mention here, simply because as I'm going through, remember I'm talking about the sacrifices. Like I said, when you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, granted, it's some stuff that's been added about Yahuwah accepting sacrifices, but what he said from the beginning, even when they got the 10 commandments from Yah through Moses, there was nothing about sacrifices in it. He said, this is what I require of you right here. Boom, boom, boom. 1 through 10. This is what I need y'all to do. But as it went on, put it back up there. No. Put it back. You're not going to start with that cheesecake muffins either. Get down. Get down, boy. Get down. Okay, you hear that. Get down. Get down. Thank you. I'm sorry. He threw me off standing up on the counter with his feet. And I was, okay. But anyway. So as we're studying about the sacrifices and everything, and even as I've learned and progressed to understand, I was like, oh, snap, because I heard, sacrifice, they had to cook out, it's food and stuff. But then it's still like, okay, yeah, they were eating it, they cooking out and everything. But what Yahuwah required from the very beginning, even before that, he said, I don't even want sacrifice. He said, just do what's right. Like, people, they wouldn't have to go sacrifice and stuff if they just did what was right. He said, I'm sick of you killing the animals. They're innocent. Don't do this. And mind you, that was something that the other nations were doing. He said, I don't want you doing this, right? Okay, so I said all that to say right here in his last last two verses, why did they have animals, right? Okay, so if you go back to the beginning, just think about the famines. I mentioned this before. They had famines that were happening. Remember, that's how all of the sons and daughters of Jacob and all their lineage, that's how they got into Egypt. Remember Joseph? What happened to Joseph? His brothers sold him. He went into Egypt, and he got pushed up in ranks and all that stuff, and he literally became next to Pharaoh. So when a famine happened, what happened? They started coming to Egypt. Yahuwah had sent him there, although the way he got sent in there by his brothers being jealous of him. It was a sad story. But Yahuwah knew the end from the beginning, so he knew this was going to happen. So what they thought they were doing to their brother, Yahuwah actually turned it around, actually to save them. And Joseph, he was another like Messiah figure or deliverer for his family. You sold me off, but in some years to come, Yah has put me here and raised me up within Pharaoh's own kingdom to save you all. The ones who sold me went back and lied to my parents and said I was dead, right? Slaughtered the animal, put blood on the boy's coat and gave it to his dad. So his dad lived all these years, mom thinking that their son was mauled to death by an animal, right? But he's still well and alive, set here. So when a famine is coming, what they started doing, Jacob started sending them boys up to Egypt. Go ask him. And what was he doing while this was going on, right? He had given Pharaoh dreams and given Joseph the ability to interpret the dreams. There's a famine coming, Pharaoh. We're going to have 7 good years of plenty. Then there are going to be 7 years of famine. But what was he doing? What did Pharaoh tell him to do? He said, begin storing up what? What was he storing up? He wasn't storing up animals, butchering animals. They were storing up grains and things that they harvest. That's what they were storing up. That's what they considered, even Egypt, that's what they considered as food. They were storing these things up. So when it was time for them to start, his brethren and stuff start coming up to seek food, what did they do? Remember, they were rich in herding cattle. So if there was a famine going on, why didn't they just kill their cattle? Because they weren't eating their cattle. They weren't slaughtering their animals. For that wasn't the norm. There were some, if they were going against Yah's commands, some of them were. but a lot of them weren't. And we can clearly see that by what they were doing during the famine. They were not slaughtering their animals and eating them. They were going to Egypt to buy grain for food. They used the animals as transportation. Like right here, it says right here, listen to this. Your sheep will provide wool for clothing. They sheared the sheep. They used the wool that the sheep produce. Why? Because they can keep reproducing, right? And also, what do? They eat the grass. So upon their land, they kept the land manicured, right? Just think about it. Like when I say, when you see this, you can't unsee this. If you just look at nature and what happens and what is going on, you can begin to course correct yourself, right? That's why a lot of the teaching that we receive in church sometimes, we can't take that, because especially our pastors that are being taught by the European Anglican Roman Catholic pastors and stuff, all that teaching is passed down to them. They're just regurgitating that garbage that they're teaching them to teach to our people, getting them not even to look at what's in front of their face. So now when you go read your Bible, you're reading it with the interpretation, with the wrong interpretation that they have taught you. They're teaching you what they want you to see from this, even though the truth is right there in your face. If it was a snake, it would have bit you. It's right there and you still didn't see it. They got eyes to see, but they cannot see. They have ears, but they cannot hear. Why? Because you've been blinded and cotton has been stuffed in your ears, and they've already given you an interpretation. And a lot of people don't go back and check and see if these things are true. Listen to what it said they're doing with their animals. Your sheep will provide wool for clothing, and your goats will provide the price of a field. So they was also trading their cattle to acquire more land and different things, right? You would have enough goat's milk for yourself, your family, and your servant girls. And they was drinking the milk. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been drinking it because I don't, whatever. But it says right there, they weren't slaughtering for meat. They was using them. Matter of fact, there was a word that I learned in the beginning in Genesis, and I'll bring it up when we get back to Genesis again here in a couple weeks, where after the flood, he said, remember he said what he had given to humans and to animals as their food, as their meat. And remember, at this time, meat, and that's where the play on English words come in. The word meat and the word meats and the word meats. It's 3 different meats. You got meat like flesh that you're consuming, meat. And then you have meat. Hey, we're going to a meet and greet tonight. And then you have meat, something that's meat for use for you. That's the meat that Genesis was talking about when Yahuwah said, I have given you the green herb of the field and also the animals as meat to you. Not meat to eat, but meats for use for you in all that you do. But it was still, and if you read down just a verse later, it talks about not consuming flesh, consuming the blood, because the blood contains the life of the force, the life force, and Yahuwah will require that life force from not man but also beast, right? So man and beast, they were created to eat the herb of the field and all that stuff, the fruits and veggies that the land produce, because that's what gives us life. When you begin consuming flesh, your body begins to die. That's why even now younger children are starting, because if you given a bunch of processed foods and a bunch of meat, start breaking their system down, right? But that also can be verified that when Yahuwah said when he restore us to our land, and it's in Ezekiel. I'm not going to get into a long dissertation, but he said, at that time, no one will hurt on all my holy mountain. And it talks about the some versions have lion and a lamb, some versions have wolf and a lamb, and the children will be able to play near a snake hole or whatever and not get bit. He said, no one will hurt in all my holy mountain. What, boo? Okay, cut it off. I'll be there in a second. So but they up, y'all. So let me go ahead and wrap this up. So if you put all those things together, you'll be able to see the leaven that was added. The red flags will go off, and it's easier to understand. But you have to read it enough to know it. Like even if you just listen to me, you probably still wouldn't be able to take it in because you're not really reading it for yourself. You have to go read it for yourself. I'm just here as an aid to you, as like the I'm like the I ain't gonna say I'm the Cliff Notes, but I'm here giving like, oh, although we're reading, I'm giving you just overviews, but it's different when you actually go in and you take it in for yourself and you read it. Then you begin to own it and not just what somebody has told you, right? You know, so I would not recommend that you do that. Use me as a help, you know, because I may get some things wrong. You know, I'm human just like you, but when I find out I'm wrong, I will come back and correct it. You know, I'm like, hey guys, look, I got this wrong. Okay, so this, and this is what it should be from my understanding now, you know, so, and I've done that a couple times up here, so I will hope you guys will do the same thing, because as you grow and you get more pieces of the puzzle and you understand more, things become clear, and you may have to go back and adjust some things that you previously thought were in order, but not quite in the right order. It doesn't fit exactly, right? Okay, all right, so that's enough. They already starting to wind that stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and do the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Whose name? Yahuwah's name. And who's going to bless us? Yahuwah himself is going to bless us. All right, beautiful people, I love you, and I'll see you bright and early, 7:30. Sunday morning, Eastern Standard Time. Peace.